Hi guys, and welcome to another part of the Reliant Kitten restoration. So last day, we took the top half off this engine. It was seized, as we all know. Today I'm starting to take off some of the bottom half of the engine. And I have had it soaking with Coca-Cola in it, I've had it soaking with vinegar in it. I've gave the cylinder liners a bit of a heat up and nothing's moved it yet. There is slight movement in the pistons though, because when you try and move the flywheel you can feel them trying to move. So it's definitely the rings stuck in, it's the problem. What we're going to do is we're going to take off this oil pump. I'm going to disconnect all the pistons, take off the back plate and the front plate, flywheel off, take the crank out, and I'm going to basically try and tap it free with a bit of hardwood and a hammer. Because I think if we get them moving they will take off. Well, that's the idea. And it has to be a bit of wood so that you take the immediate hit of the hammer off of the piston. So let's get started. I'll have to get a little container for the oil pump bits. And hopefully I've got a nice oily one to save me making a mess of a clean container. See what I've got. There's an oily-ish one. I mean, I could just sit this pump straight into the parts box that we've got, but if we do that, it just means that there'll be bits of parts or bits of water pump rumbling about. So I've already slackened these off, thankfully. So that turns around like that. That's one. And the second one is on this side. They're just 1/2 inch bolts, very easy to get off. Oh, that was lovely. I just put my hand on the back of the oil filter and I've discovered something. Carbon. Lots and lots of carbon. Let's get rid of that off my hands. Ooh, it's very sludgy stuff. I mean, that glove stayed clean for literally 5 seconds. Ooh, lovely. Let's see if I can get that cleaned off a bit more. Just so it's easier to do the rest of this jobs today without covering everything in black carbony oil. So it's fair to say this is probably a high mileage engine. Right, so I need a rubber mallet. Well, I've got one of these ones here. I'll take the rubber one as well. Looking for the rubber mallet and it's sitting right next to where I was looking. I've taken a copper and hide hammer as well. I've got a screwdriver. Screwdrivers for an important job to get these bloomin' lock washers off, because they are currently, there we go, that's one. The other one's on this side. Two. Let's the lock washers out the way. Now this water pump, I keep calling it a water pump, an oil pump even, should just come off like that. And I can already feel another lump of carbon on it. Ugh, that is, oh, very lovely. I'm going to give this a quick scrape out. I'll put it into this oil, my basin for catching oil. That's pretty disgusting. What we'll do is, we'll set that in there just now. Although it's on my list to give that a clean. Bit of this oil off my gloves again. Well, it is a very oily job we're doing today, which is basically stripping down an engine. I like to cover my hands in oil again, pulling a gasket off. I don't know why I'm putting that in there, but it's out the way for the moment. That's a good way of putting it. I'm going to move these bolts over here because that's all the cylinder head ones. Right, now we're into the guts of the engine. And it's 7/16 that all this is held on with. So we will get the tools, which is basically a socket and an extender, an extension even. And I use the 1/2 inch socket, or a 3/4 inch ratchet even. Get the socket, and also we need the chisel, which is here. And I'll need to get my bolt down hammer. So I'll use the big one because it's just at hand. So what we need to do with these is, on one edge of every bolt there should be a lock tab. I think that was that one. They're quite filthy, these bolts, so it's not good to see the lock tab. These ones are in a funny place. This is actually the same engine that's in the Buch now, because it's obviously got an 850 in it. Which, you might be wondering when the next episode of it's coming. And I've got a very good answer to that one. A long time away. Unfortunately, after doing the gearbox leaks and sorting the oil leak in the back of the engine and the flywheel, took it out a road test and the engine blew up. We suspect at the moment that there's a piston possibly decided to disappear inside the engine somewhere. So for the time being, the kitten's now getting all its attention because its engine's in my engine cradle. I think that's the right word to call it. But you know, the Buch's just went straight to the back of my list for being repaired. So you won't be seeing it on the channel for a little while. But it will be back. It's sitting behind the camera just now, probably feeling quite sorry for itself. There we go, look at that. If we can get into all these, I'll be quite happy. I'm imagining that top ones might have to use a spanner on, because they're just out to alignment for me getting in with anything else. You know, for being a stock engine, these are actually coming off beautifully. I'm going to have to use a spanner on the bottom one as well, just because if we're sitting I can't get into the bolt. That's what I'm looking for. I was looking for some brake and clutch cleaner to clean up my socket since it's now soaked with oil. Right, so we've got a spanner. That should go on there. Put this dipstick out the way. struggling to get onto that once. That's that one going. So just the one that I'm struggling to get onto. I think it's because the tab's still down on the lock washer. Give it another try. I got it. That's not what you're supposed to do with a spanner. Right, onto it this time. That's it turning. Right. Not the best to get these off. What we'll do is we might do a time lapse while I go and try and get all these to bits. Oh, I'm so happy that didn't hit the casing. Let's see if this cap will come off. Be interesting to see how high or low mileage looking the engine is. Well, that just dropped off easily. They're actually quite good condition. They're not through to the copper. I mean, they're going to be changed anyway, because we don't want to put an old part in a new built engine. But generally, it's just starting to show through in the middle. Quite good condition. What do we have this pail for? That was the sump washers. We'll get another pail for these, a tub for these. In fact, I think this was an empty one. We'll put all the piston bits in. Oh wait, we could use a bigger tub actually. We'll get the pistons, if they come out, into this tub as well. So we'll use, here's a nice big one on the in this corner. I think it actually pistons in it last time as well. I'm quite surprised at how clean that big end bearings or the main bearings are. Just because we've got that one out, we might actually have a look at the rest. And even the crank looks in brilliant shape. It's just the pistons that have stuck, I think. Wait, we don't want to take the bolts right out anyway. Compared to the Supervan engine, because if you followed the channel for back then, I think that engine was on the... No, it wasn't on the videos. That was before I started doing the videos again. My mistake. So the Supervan engine was actually that seized that trying to get these out was a nightmare. They just were stuck solid. But these ones are not too bad. That's if this one comes out. I'm saying all this and then this will probably be the other awkward one that won't move. I think it could be better with a combination spanner, just to get in about it easier. 7/16, that's what we're wanting. Just coming to the end of my holidays as well this week. I've been off for a week for Easter. So this is the last day I'll be able to get working on a Reliant for a full day. I mean, it started off cracking on with the bond bug, has now ended in back to the kitten. Still quite tough, that. Still there. Not the easiest getting into these bolts, you know. There we go. Ah, there's one that's worn out a bit though. It helps when I remember where I've sat stuff down. Yeah, that one's starting to show the copper through it. So that goes to show, don't judge everything by the first bit you take apart. Now we can get the rest out. See if we can. I was determined that hammer was going to slip there. So what we'll do is we'll take all these out, see what condition they're in, and then I guess we'll go and strip down the front of the engine. I won't do the back one on camera because I'll have to take it all out the stand to do this. It's a bit of a nuisance, but oh well. See, there's another good shell. It'll probably just be the odd one in the middle, I imagine, or it could be the end one as well. But I mean, it's good to see the engine's not, it's not been run until it probably broke down totally. It's probably just been run until something went wrong. Probably the chassis in the kitten, and then they've tried to convert it into the Bond Bug, or the Super Robin. I'm not entirely sure. It's a quite interesting thing. I find it very interesting when you start finding out the history of these. I've still not heard anything back from the previous owners, but I'm confident that we'll find out what happened with this kitten. Maybe even find out its registration. Because at the moment I haven't had any luck with the reg number. Oh, that's interesting. We've got a seized one. The end cap's just totally jammed. That is weird. There we go, it's coming out. Let's see what kind of condition that was in then. I mean, that bearing is near enough perfect again. Now I'm curious if that's going to let the flywheel turn at all, or if we're still stuck solid. Because in theory that should move a little bit now that it's been disconnected. Or maybe not. Maybe it just doesn't want to move. Oh no, it does have movement. That's okay then. Right, so next stage of this is get the front pulley off. So it's a 9/16. Can't see me, well you can't see the engine even, you probably don't see much of me this time. That's a quite tough bolt. Probably doesn't help I've been using that as the prying point for some of the times trying to get the engine turning. There we go, that's one nut out. Now I'm using the hide side of this hammer. It's nearly worn off anyway, because I don't want to break the pulley. It doesn't take much to come off, it's just a keyway style pulley. So that's that one. I'm quite confident that'll stay together. Pardon me. We can actually spin this engine over now and do it from the right way around. and I could get a seat as well, which is always helpful. So what we want to do now is we'll strap the front end of this engine down. That should fit in there. In fact, we could probably swap these around. We'll put all this bits into that tub, and we'll put the front end bits in the bigger one. We'll leave the bottom bits, the pistons, there just now. Right, we'll need 1/2 inch. The joys of getting to sit down on this jobs. It's not often you get to do this either. So that's a piston and the flywheel now in there. That's 1, 2, 3. That's an annoying one. 4. Are we slocking that one? No. Right. So what we'll do here is I'm going to get a scraper first and just take off that gunk off the front of the cover. And we also need another 7/16 because there's 2 spanners needed for that last bolt. It's the joys of these kind of engines, you get used to all the little bits and pieces on them. Now there's a couple of rags down below this engine, so they'll just be going in the bin once this is finished. It does look like it's been a quite leaky engine. I'm not being fussy just now. This is just to take off some of the dirt, so it's a little bit cleaner. I mean, before this is all put up, we will be cleaning it all up. So we've got this bolt. We'll start with it, because it's the one that I haven't got off yet. That's 1. The rest of them we can use this. I have seen me take these off before and put the parts actually into the timing casing once it's off, but because it'll be off a wee while, this one, I'll just put them in the white pail. And I haven't got the big container at the moment that I used the last time. There's one thing for sure, there's no messier job than stripping down an engine. I think we're going to need a gentle tap from something just to get that to come off. So I'll probably use the rubber mallet this time. I mean, this has been on, I'll say this has never been off. Then it's been on since the kitten was new, so 1978. The engine's 77. You hear that noise? That's how you know it's coming loose. Look at that. It is quite carbony built up inside it. It's actually mouldy. Now, these timing chains, what we'll do is we'll put the bolts inside it. We'll put it all in this pail, but we'll put the bolts into here. Like so. That in the bottom, that into there. Now these are slightly deceiving. To get this off, you take this off first. which means I need to get my chisel now, which is over this side. Just take over a few things, I think, because we need the 1/2 inch spanner as well. A socket or spanner, it doesn't really matter at this point. That's one side. See, normally you'd use a socket because this engine's turned when you do this, but because it's seized, you don't have to worry about that. Now there's timing marks in these engines, which are normally supposed to line up. I see one of them there, so the other one's probably over here somewhere. We can't time them up. In fact, no, the keyway. That and the keyway get lined up. We can't do that because we can't turn it. When we build it back together though, we will be lining those up. Unless you want the engine to not run right. Or to bash all your valves. I mean, if you want to bash all your valves and wreck an engine, do whatever you want. That one, and that one in there. I'll put them down in there. Now to get this time gear off, it's very tricky. You just go wiggle that one and pull that one. Yes, it is as simple as that. I'm quite sure that whole drive is seized as well. Just out of curiosity, we'll try the crowbar on it again. I'm curious to see if anything's made it decide to move now. So that's another weight off of the crank. Funny thing is, I've got piston movement now. Yeah, I've got piston movement in all of them. Not enough, like, but we've got some movement. So, next stage is to take this bit off. Like so. This is holding the camshaft in. I think it's camshaft's the right word for this one. That one. Oh, come on. Finger tight now anyway. There's some surface rust in the engine, nothing to be worried about. Right, so that's that off. Now this should just tap out that. Well, it should actually just slide out. I've never had one that hasn't just dropped out before. Even the seized engine one did this. It does make me think could have some big problems with that crank. That push rods assembly. In fact, I think it's stuck in. That could be interesting. We'll probably try something with that later. Right, we've got a few bolts to take out, and this front plate should come off. fact, I think it's just 3 bolts. Top tip, if you get a bolt stuck in a socket, just screw it back on a couple of threads and pull the socket off. Works brilliantly. I'll use the gasket scraper to help us get these, just since the screwdriver's still down the very end of before it was working. One, nothing on there. That's them. We'll just put them in that box as well. And I think this does have a gasket on it as well, mind you. Oh look, some more oil. Just pull that over to the side a little bit. But there's the front plate off. That'll get cleaned up quite soon probably. So our next stage, I think while we're here we'll take off the fuel pump, because I see it's sitting here as well. And it could actually be seized. I have seen plenty of fuel pumps seize up. These are always very awkward to take off for some reason. You put a socket onto it, it tends to jam onto the fuel pump. The combination spanner just doesn't have space to turn half the time. But we'll get there. There's pricing up parts for this engine already, or looking at them. So worst case scenario, that the liners get damaged with pistons coming out or something like that. We'd have to get a set of pistons and liners for it. And to do that, it's just under £400. So yeah, at the moment, that's the minimum price without adding gaskets, main bearings, big end bearings and all the rest on. I think we'll go and try if we can get a socket on there. I've got some sockets here. We'll use the thinner one. Because the thicker one definitely won't fit. The sun is out up here today actually, but still not. Oh, look at that. That's a lot easier. A lot easier than watching me struggle with a combination spanner and going, oh well, this doesn't work very well. I'll probably put these nuts back on here. There's actually no spacer on here either. There should be a spacer on this if it's an 850. And you get a spacer on your fuel pump on the Reliant engines normally. The older engines don't have one for some reason, but the newer ones do. That's quite stiff for a fuel pump to get off. That's new. I've never had one stock before. Let's just try and give it a gentle. Could just be. Yeah, this is a new one for me. I've never had a stock fuel pump. It could be that I think we're going to have to use a pry bar on it. It's not hitting anything, it's just stuck. There we go. Ooh. There's no fuel in it. It is stuck though. So that's off. We'll just set that in a box of lovely bits. We'll put these back onto here. I'll probably get the oil filter off just now as well. Because it's just sitting at this side of the engine and there's no point leaving it. Get a tool for it, once I get my hands cleaned again. I don't like making a mess of my tools, you see, so it's quite handy having old rags. Pardon me. Right, now this will be going that way. Ooh, this one's tight. There we go. Is that water coming out of it? There may be a little bit of water in there. That can go bend. Right. So for the next bit, I'll stick it on time lapse because it's going to take me a minute to strip the back of it off, and I've obviously taken it out of here to do that, and then put the engine stand away because I won't need it anymore. So yeah, I'll go and crack on with that. I'm going to be able to set up a temporary workbench with some pallets just to sit this on so I can work on it. And we'll take it from there. Maybe see if this, there's an oil send pressure switch here as well. Maybe see if it'll come out. These always seem to stick in place. I don't know what it is about them. Every time I've came across one recently. There we go, that's it. The other one I did was exactly the same, it just wouldn't budge. Right, we will need that again, so I can go in them on the oil pump. There's still zero movement in that cam. That's worrying, because normally at this point they do move and then rock about. But that one's just not even moving at all. I mean, we'll get a tapless rubber mallet. See if we can get some back and forth movement in it. It's nothing at all. So yeah, that could be a... I know, we've got some movement. That moved a little bit. So that's okay, it is moving. It's just very solid. Right, so the next port of call is back end off onto a side, take the crank out and get going with something quite solid to see if I can loosen it off. I'll need to put 2 sticks below it to hold the engine off the flat when I'm tapping them. So I'll do that and I'll bring these back later. Right guys, so as you'll see in the time lapse, the bench is now, I've now got this temporary pallet bench in again, and that's the flywheel, the end plates and the two caps that cover the main bearings off. So we're now ready to take off these the three main caps, main bearing caps. So I'll just use this because it's got the 9/16 on it. Well, that one's taking the stud out. You may notice I've not, well, you probably won't see because the camera's not as high up that you can see, but I haven't zapped the nuts right off. I've just taken them off so far so that I can just take them off by hand. That way you know that everything's where it should be. This one is obviously done what I wasn't wanting it to do. Might have to zap this one out. So I'll have to change that one. Well, I'll have to put it in the right way anyway. Two, 3, 4, and 5. That's all them off. Now these should, if I remember right, just come out no problem. We'll give them a little wiggle. They're tight. It could be that the crank's actually seized in this engine. We'll try plan 2, which is a gentle tap with this. I mean, it certainly feels like they're loose. We just can't get hold of them. See if I can get something just to grab hold of these caps. Possibly a pair of pliers. Oh, these are stuck on well. Right, we can probably give them a helping hand from this side. That is quite tough. I don't know if that's just oiled them down the studs and stuck it. There we go, that's one off. That bearing's not bad either. Another thing to note with these is when you take them off, they're all stamped. R for rear. That one will be C if I remember right, and that'll be F. But yeah, all stamped and all in the right way. It's also worth noting that they do sit one way round only. They won't go on that way. So that one can go in there. The middle one's stuck as well. I can just see how this is going to go with all these ones not moving. That one did have a little bit of corrosion in it actually. Nothing serious, but still a bit. That one's got the F on it. Now, see how we get the central one. Nope, don't want that old gasket in there. see how we get this central one off, because it's not wanting to budge. I mean, it should be coming off easier. Let's try and give it a gentle. I'd like to have thought that would have done something. I mean, we've got movement in the crank, it's just not wanting to move. Or wanting to lift even. What we need to do is try and get that one to lift. So I don't want to put any sharp forces into it. So what I'll do is I'll just gently try and tap it. I'll just tap away at it with ease. I think that's it going. There it is. That was really stuck. Funny as it was stuck, but it's not filthy. Or not worn out. So out comes the crank. I'll have a quick study of this before we do anything with it. Doesn't look too bad. A little bit of corrosion there, but I think it'll polish out. But I'll get some expert help on it before I check, because I'm not, although I can rebuild these, checking of the components I'm not entirely clued up with, so that'll go in the pile to be checked before we fit anything. But now, well, all the push rods are, that's interesting. Well, that wouldn't have went far. Oh, don't want to lose that. What I'll have to do is I'll have to stop this video and go and take some photos so I know where bits have came from. Otherwise, when I go to rebuild this, I'll be quite clueless. So I've got in my photos, I know what I'm looking at now. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to put all these bolts into a container, because these are the back end bolts, so we can't lose them. So they can all go in there, along with that. And that'll go into that shelf. What we'll do is we'll also stick the flywheel bolts in it. That way we know they won't disappear while we're working. Now, the crank, I'm just going to sit it down under there, out of the way, because we're about to have a go at trying to unseize this pistons again. So this will sit quite happily on its. That was nothing to worry about, it was just something deciding to rub. What was it supposed to go in there? There and there. We'll have this sitting on there. So that's on like that. The other side's the same. What we're going to do now is shift my seat out the way, because it's no use to me just now. We're going to see if we can get the pistons out. So I've got a couple of blocks of timber here I've been tapping them with. I think this one was too big. Yeah, but if we alter it, I'll be able to get it in. So bear with me while I go and alter this block of timber, and we'll be able to go and see if we can tap these pistons out. These are actually handy little bits of timber that were leftovers from the Regal's timber frame. So they're really hard being made of ash. And it means when I chop it, I get a good bang on the piston to try and move it. No. That's what I was wanting. Tight fit. That's solid. The good news is though, that's moved. I put on my head torch, but that piston definitely moved. Yeah, it's moved down about 5-10 mil, or 5 mil let's say. So what we'll do now is soak in this oil. Put it into number 2 as well. So this can go back into there. Check this is not the one that's potentially hitting something. Ooh. No, it's a long way before it has to worry about hitting anything. Let's try again. That wasn't supposed to fall off. She has moved. Again, we're down about 10 mil now. Quite like to get that over a bit. Come on. See, the big problem I've got is, there we go. That's facing straight down now with the main bait, well, big end of it, the con rod. It is going though, but I'm running out of stick, which isn't really the best, because I can't, when it goes below that liner, I don't want to hit it, because you could hit the blooming liner and damage it. But we might be able to pack it up with a littler bit. See what I've got. It's quite an energetic kind of bit of action, this. That bit didn't work at all, by the way. And I will tidy up all my tools after we finish this. It's not far from the bottom of the liner though. The need is, that was the ideal size. It's just hitting that without hitting the liners is the tricky bit now, because I think that was the longest bit of timber. It's going down though. I mean, that's dropped a good at least 10 mil now, definitely 10 mil. What we need though is something just slightly bigger. I mean, I might have just found that slightly bigger thing we need. Well, I was keeping the bigger bits of this project just in case I need it for something else, but I think we're going to have to use it on this. So I'll have to cut this lip off again. Right, we've now got a longer chopper. It might be stuck now, as it's not wanting to move again. What I'll probably do is I'll work away in it, because this is not going to be a quick job. And I'll have to go and tidy up all my tools now that I've knocked everywhere. There's a main bearing below here, and a big end bearing. I mean, it is coming down. It's not far, and then we should start coming out the piston. So I'll leave that here, and I guess that's it for this time. I'll give you as an update when this comes to bits, and we'll see about what needs done to it. But until then, I guess I hope you've enjoyed the video and seen me smacking a Reliant engine with some timber and a hammer. If you want to keep up to date with all these Reliant restorations and all this really classic Reliant stuff, remember and hit like and subscribe to the channel, guys. And until next time, we'll see you again.